Hello to all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched and Share Shots. We still have high hopes of delivering quality wrestling content, but if not, we'll sprinkle in some indie stars, so we still get over. I'm your host, a chef by trade, I'm Mark by choice, I am the Will Gray, and tonight my people hailing from New England, he is the man with a lot of fancy holds. He's Brad Cashew. Brad, how are you, sir? Thanks for coming on and chat about some wrestling.
I'm doing great, Will. Glad to have you on. Glad to be here. Looking forward to a good conversation.
Excellent, man. I always start a lot of these the same way. Let's talk about where wrestling started for you as a fan, and then that point in your life where you were like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be.
Yeah, big fan growing up. I liked watching it with my dad and my brother. I remember my first match. I remember seeing my dad's he's got WCW Thunder on, giving my age a little bit. That was still on the air. Disco Inferno comes out and then gets destroyed by the Giants. And just as like a little 5 or 6 year old, I was like, this is awesome. I'm all in on this. So yeah, I was actually exclusively a WCW fan growing up until the invasion. Then I was Team Alliance all the way. But yeah, I've been a fan ever since. When I was around like junior high, early high school age, I remember like some of the top guys were like Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, and I knew that they had really good amateur backgrounds. They were collegiate national champions. Angle was an Olympic gold medalist with a broken freaking neck, as we all know. So I thought if I ever want to do this in my life, I better join my high school wrestling team. I better become a really good amateur wrestler. So I did that. I wrestled through high school and through college, and really built up my like base of athleticism through amateur wrestling, knowing that one day I'd want to get into the ring.
Where did you start your training for professional wrestling?
I started at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy back in 2011. I was actually still actively in college at the time. So that was about 11 years ago. I've not been in wrestling for 11 years. I've been a fan for way longer than that. But yeah, I started up then, and I was able to go for like the summer, early fall once like the school year kicked back in. I was kind of out of both like time and money. Man, looking back, like I like could have made it work maybe, but I was like already kind of scraping by with not much. So my thought was, all right, let's take care of school. Let's get a degree so I can fall back on that. Let's save up some money so I'm not making like tough decisions about like, can I afford a meal tonight versus like my gas bill to get up to the school. And yeah, so I didn't wind up getting back to training for a while longer. It wasn't until 2019 that I was back at it. But yeah, it's since then I've been all in all the way, and yeah, it's been going great. It's a hell of a ride, and just glad to be part of this place.
So, with your amateur background coming out of high school and then going into transitioning into professional wrestling, when I watch your tape, you have a ton of like technical moves. You go 100 miles an hour, but you don't ever lose that technical advantage. Do you think that is stemming from that amateur background from when you started in high school?
Yeah, absolutely. Like practices in high school and college. Like, I mean, even just coming from high school, like when I first trained, I was only 19. I didn't have like that full college background yet. All I had was my high school wrestling time, but still I'd gone through practices where we're basically going live, full strength, getting in a ton of reps on takedowns and reversals and counters, and doing that for like a 2-hour session. So when I come here and I'm like, oh, like a long match is like 15 minutes. Now it's a different kind of impact. It is actually like incredibly draining to have a pro wrestling match for that long. But like I've gone through some really, really long amateur practices. Like I'll say when I was in college, our preseason, I mean, we would have 7 practices a week. It was 6 days because we'd double up on Saturday. We'd do a lift in the morning, and then we'd be on the mats in the afternoon. But yeah, no, dude, we would have practices 2 straight hours. And so I'm not shy about the fact I went to Boston University. They're a Division I program. No, I walked onto the team. I was good in high school. Like I was captain of my team, placed at states, was a top wrestler at mass, but like the Division I level is super, super competitive and elite. Like all my friends on the team, it was just like Minnesota state champion, Michigan state champion, like top 4 in Jersey, like top 4 in Ohio. People that were just really, really good from all over the country. So there was no real like weak link in that training room. Anybody you're going against, it's like a shark tank. You're just trying to keep up, and like, every like takedown is something that you can like be proud of there. So yeah, that was just living that. Like college wrestling starts in like, man, we start practices around like September and we go till like spring break in March. So was just doing that like 5-6 days a week for some of those like most important years of my life to like build up that base. It's definitely something that's carried over because now like coming to the pro game and working on some of these takedowns and stuff, it's like, I might do it a little differently in an amateur match, but it's a motion that I've practiced and I've hit like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. So like I'm ready to go. I can make it look smooth, I can hit it hard, and I can do it well.
So a lot of guys, when they talk about their matches inside the squared circle, they use a phrase "calling it in the ring." A lot of guys I've talked to and I've had a chance to have a conversation with and talk shop have said that their amateur background has helped them with being able to call it in the ring because you're so adaptable and you have the muscle memory of what these holds feel like. So it's more fluid when you have that background. So it's not necessarily the same question back to back, but when you're in the ring, calling it in the ring, do you feel more comfortable because of your amateur background? Because you can flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, an amateur match, a college match, at most it's 7 minutes. So unless you can pin somebody, you got to make do with that 7 minutes and score points where you can. And when you're against somebody that's a really high level, they're not going to give you any freebies.
Yeah.
You've got to like take it, like you have to like set the position how you need it. You need to adapt to whatever they're doing. So I'm used to being able to read that situation and come up with that counter or come up with that best way to change the advantage. So with that, like, yeah, I can call it on the fly because I'm never going to freeze. I always know like where I am and what's possible and what's available.
So let's talk about when you're working outside of an amateur thing. You have a lot of like in your in-ring work. I don't like to say high flying stuff, but you display a lot of agility when you work in ring. What are some of the biggest things you do to prepare for a match, knowing that you're gonna to have some of these high spots and some of these little bit more athletic feats that you're gonna have to go through?
I'm fearless. That's it. When it comes to like jumping off the top or anything like that, I mean, I'll give some credit to like amateur wrestling. I'll give some like, me as a kid before I even got into amateur wrestling, like my house was like, me and my brother, like we were the ones with the trampoline and we're like putting it under trees and ladders and stuff. And like, so there was always that like chasing that adrenaline rush of like, can I get, can I go a little bit higher? Can I do a flip on this? So I kind of like train myself mentally for that. Then I get into amateur wrestling where it's like, you could have all eyes in the school, like watching you, home match, like senior night, whatever it is. You have a really, really big match and you might have a really tough opponent. And if you're afraid, you're going to psych yourself out and get your own head. So I'm trained. I know how to just take that fear and like channel it into adrenaline. So I know I have the athleticism to pull off a lot of like high flying moves and a lot of agility. And it's really just making sure you don't have that fear that's going to hold you back.
Do you have a spot yet that you were like, man, I can't believe I just pulled that off?
That's a good question. There's sometimes, I think the first time I've wound up hitting it a few times. I was a very big fan of the Hurricane growing up. I was 9 years old. I was the Hurricane for Halloween. He did this really cool move where he'd have somebody like, someone would be trying to like get him with a superplex and he'd like stop them and they'd both be on the top rope and he'd like take their head and hit a swinging neck breaker with both guys on the top rope. I think the first time I hit that was against Alec Price last summer. And it was kind of like, we were in the position for it and it was sort of like, am I going to be able to pull this off? And like, because it's still very difficult. I mean, like Shane Helms is a fantastic wrestler.
He's a beast. Just calling, yeah.
So like to be able to pull that off and like, it's cool. Like just knowing it was like, because like I did believe in myself, like I'm going to be able to hit this. It's going to work. But there's still a little bit of that like doubt, like, can I get the rotation right? Can I get this? So I know I hit it that one time. That was back at Summer Chaos for Chaotic. That was back August of last year, so almost a full year ago. I've only really been able to hit that a couple other times since then, I think I've only hit it maybe like 2 or 3 times in my career. But yeah, it's one of my favorite moves that I've been able to pull out. I also just like you know, I'm not so like I'm always gonna do whatever it takes to win, and I don't want to just have a move be like it's a tribute or like I'm like a fanboy, but like I am a fan. I grew up liking this stuff, so I do like that I was a huge fan of the Hurricane, and I like can pull off one of his moves and do it justice. I got another one of my moves I hit a good amount. I've never been able to win with it, but there's this it's an Alabama slam, but you sit out with it. One of the commentators called it the Nutville slam. And I was briefly, I was billed from Nutville when I was very early on. The famous legendary city of Nutville. But yeah, it had been called the Nutville Slam. It's a sit-out Alabama Slam. I got that watching Chris Canyon, actually. I was a big fan of Canyon. Like I said, I was a WCW guy. But it's cool being able to kind of work into my own repertoire some of the guys who I think really helped make me a fan and get me into this.
So you brought up the prize Alec Price. I've recently interviewed him. He's the Limitless champ. You yourself have some Limitless days coming up as well. What has your time been with, or how has your time with Limitless been?
Yeah, so I started wrestling for Limitless about a little over a year ago. I came in and the people of Maine have just been disrespectful to me from day one. And I
Really?
just don't particularly care for it. So, I think I'm just going out and being myself. But yeah, the people from Maine have been very antagonistic toward me. So I'm not one to just take that line down. So I, of course, give it back to them and let them know that I don't really care for their attitudes. But I've been able to have some great matches and great opponents in Limitless. I'm really proud of a lot of the work that I've been able to do there. I could roll through a lot of matches that I'm really proud of. Going back about a full year, I had a match with Iron Rip Bison that I feel really proud of. There's one I had with Davey N that was coming right out of the that was actually the first one I had in Limitless. That was before we were even back to crowds. There's a few times I've wrestled Becca that have gone really well. And then I've had some really fun experiences being able to work with Dirty Dango, Scotty Too Hottie, I had Gangrel recently. And yeah, I believe my most recent match there was with the big Boofa, Desmond Cole. He did get the better of me on that occasion. I'll give him some credit. He did outsmart me and beat me at my own game. So you got one, Des, all right? But Boofa, this ain't over.
So when you have a chance to work with guys like Gangrel and Scotty Too Hottie, when you work with veterans that have been in the industry as long as they have been, what are some of the biggest things you take away from those matches?
So while I'm competing against them, it's always, I'm a student of the game. I'm a college graduate. I'm a lifetime learner. I'm always improving my game. As soon as I stop improving, then I'm done. I'm like out of this. So I'm always looking to get better. So even as I'm trying to beat somebody like a Gangrel, I'm noticing the way that he maybe positions himself or things that he might do to help himself like build some momentum, or how he's positioned himself for some moves or what he's kind of going for. So really noticing some of those little things. A lot of times what'll make like the GIF or the big photo, like the big photo op from it will be that one really big move, that big high spot, whatever. It's a lot of those like in betweens where you see that real like mastery that you can only get through either, 20 plus years in wrestling, or taking the time to really carefully study and try to apply it to your own game.
Nice. When you look at some of the things you've done at Limitless, and then you go somewhere like Chaotic Wrestling, you've got some dates with Chaotic coming up too. Do you see a huge difference between the fan bases when you go from promotion to promotion or territory to territory?
Yeah, it's even though there is a lot of overlap, there's some people that I'll see everywhere, but every place has its own feel. Every place has got its own energy, and that's important to just keep in mind when you go in, especially if you're someone like, the Chaotic fans. They give me a lot of support and a lot of love. So from there, a lot of times I'm feeding off of that energy. I'm really like letting it fuel me and help me Like, it's something I can rely on. It's like a home game versus an away game. Limitless is definitely an away game. For there, I know that they're not going to be nice to me. They are going to say very disrespectful things to me. They're going to curse at me. They're going to question all of my life choices. And with that, it's like, all right, I just got to, let that fuel me in a different way. So it's prepping your mind. So like, am I going to get encouragement? And it's like, all these people have my back, or am I basically fighting everyone in this arena right now? Either way, it can get me fired up. Like, I'm good with it. Like, I'm somebody that can feed off that energy no matter what. And I take pride in that. But yeah, you do got to kind of know what you're getting into. And that's something that can be fun about going someplace new. I just wrestled at Fight Life down in Rhode Island. That was like 2-3 weeks ago. And for that one, it was, again, not really sure how they'd respond to me. And, kind of trying to tease that out and figure out, all right, if that's someplace that I'm going to be coming back to, which I do plan to be, what are they kind of giving me, and how am I going to kind of reshape my game based on that?
So a lot of people say when they work on their characters and their gimmicks and they're building their in-ring personality outside their work, they turn up a little bit of their everyday life to 11. What part of Brad gets turned up to 11 when he's in a match?
I'd say like my intensity and just like my focus, my determination. Like I am a generally pretty intense person, like outside of the ring as well. I'm somebody who goes hard in everything I do. But yeah, I think something that's important to take away. A lot of times people talk about like your character or your persona. Like, I'm me. I think if you're trying too hard to like be somebody who makes it, then you're being fake. And like everyone can see that, and you can like see through it. Like, I'm me, whether you like me or you don't like me, whether the crowd's for me or against me, I'm still just showing different aspects of the real person that I am. So, the cameras are on. You might think like, oh, it's just an act. You're like pretending stuff. It's no. For me, it's like, in Maine, I'll show some different aspects of me when I'm in front of that Limitless crowd. Then when I'm chaotic, it might be other parts of it, but it's the same way as like you're a different self when you're with one friend group versus if you like go to work and you're talking to your work friends, then you're back with like your old high school friends and stuff. That's how I see it with wrestling. So I think if anybody out here is listening to this and thinking about like, oh, what do I do for my character? It's like, dude, if you got to think that hard, then you're being fake, and like, it's going to shine through. So just be yourself, find something that's like, I don't know, you can attach to and feels like genuine, because when you're genuine, everybody can tell. So I've always just been me, different aspects of the full me. But yeah, all this is just me being who I am.
There's a phrase in journalism: when you're writing a piece, you have to read the room or know your audience. When you step into the squared circle and you're getting ready for a match, do you feel like that's just as important for you when you get in the ring, to be able to read the room and know your audience, to know what you're going to need to do to get a pop, how you're going to get over, or if you're playing as a heel, how to get the heat that you need? Do you read the audience for that?
So really the goal is, no matter what, like whatever we're getting, I'm trying to win the match. That's priority number one. So I can also get some energy that's going to help me like one way or the other, whether it's, like I said, like it's a home game, I'm feeding off the crowd, or it's an away game and I'm like feeding off their hatred. That can be something that I have to like help my case and get me there. But ultimately, like when I'm getting in the ring, I'm thinking about my opponent and how well do I know them? It might be somebody where I've got their move set known inside and out. I've seen them wrestle a bunch of times. I've wrestled them a bunch of times. I know what to do against them. I know what they're looking for. Sometimes it's a totally fresh opponent, somebody I've never seen before. And there, I've got to kind of feel it out. A lot of times, I'll say this, a lot of times I learn a lot from the lockup. As soon as you lock up with somebody, sometimes you can tell if they're scared of you, if they're going to back down, or if they're going to really bring it. And you're like, all right, guess I'm in for a fight today. So I always like to, try to pay attention to what my opponent's doing, seeing if they're sending me any signals that I can pick up on.
So a lot of guys have told me that the collar and elbow at the beginning of the match is kind of the once upon a time for the story that you guys are going to tell. Lots of trainers have used that reference with me. If you were going to look at the collar and elbow tie-up as a once upon a time, do you think it's the most important move in wrestling? I know that's a big question. That's loaded.
That is like also an interesting way to think about it, because it's like to say it's the most important move. It's also kind of like saying like my gut reaction is no, because you can't win with it.
Oh, I've got a follow-up question that's just going to be just as hard for you.
I'll say like something I'd say is like an interesting parallel to it is what's the most important match in a card? A lot of people will say the main event, but there's also a really good argument to be made for the opener, because that's going to set the tone. So it's essentially, is your opener what's more important? It's like, I don't have a good answer, but like, I'm gonna give you some credit, Will. I do like that question. That's getting me thinking.
The follow-up, I always ask, if the once upon a time is a collar and elbow, then what would be the happily ever after or the end of a match then? Like, what would be, how is the process for you when you start building your finish?
So for me, I'll usually, my best weapon I have, and I'll advertise, I put it on a shirt. Like, I don't care if anybody's trying to scout my game. My best weapon is the shellacker. It's a spin and heel kick. I get a lot of sauce on it. My legs are super strong from having to stand in a wrestling stance for 2-hour practices all through high school and college. So I've got strong legs, and if I kick you in the head with them with added rotational momentum, I'm going to knock somebody out. So if I hit that kick, it's done. I usually try not to go for it till I've really got somebody like weakened. And that's because if I'm going to hit it, I know it's going to be it, but I also, it's a vulnerable position to put myself into, because the spin kick, I do need to turn my back on my opponent, and I'm going to be more off balance going up on one foot and reaching my foot up toward their face. So if I miss it, I can potentially put myself in a tough situation. I'll say my most, one of my most recent matches I had in Chaotic, it was a beat the clock challenge match. I've got 632 to beat Trigger the OG. I was swinging for that thing from the jump. Like I never wound up hitting him with it. There was a little bit of shenanigans at the end that kept me from being able to get the win I deserved. But I was going for that a lot. Was never really able to put him away with it because I never connected with it. I actually think, looking back on my strategy, probably should have maybe set him up a little bit better in order to go for it. Maybe I could have saved myself some time. And then would have been able to maybe get that with a little bit more time on the clock at the end. But for me, like, that's my exclamation point. Like, that's my end of the sentence, is hitting that move, hitting the shellacker. It's all done. And I'd like to think that just about anybody, whoever you are, when you're a wrestler, whatever you're putting the match away with, it should be like, it's done. You got him. Like, I'll admit, like, I win some matches sometimes, just like, I am a good amateur wrestler. I can catch someone with a good technical roll up. I can use leverage and momentum. And I've actually had some of my wins I'm most proud of being able to like catch somebody. But the best, most satisfying wins, this was something my one of my college coaches said, is it's like, you want to finish the match. Like, you don't want to be up by 10 and then you start coasting in the last 45 seconds because you've already won. And maybe you give up a takedown and then you finish out the match on bottom. Like, no. Even though you are going to win that one, like, you might see that guy again at the national tournament. You might see him again next year. So you want them to walk off the mat feeling like, I got beat. So even if you're up by 10, even if you're up by 12, push the pace, go for that takedown, go for that next move. You don't want to just beat people. You want to break people. So I take that into the squared circle. I don't want to just beat you by catching you. I can do that. But if I can nail you with my kick, leave you out cold, then you know that I'm the better man. I won this time.
So when you're in a match, which do you feel you get the biggest rush from? When you get somebody to tap out or pinning their shoulders for the 1, 2, 3? Having an amateur background and a striking proficiency, which do you think makes you feel more successful in the ring? Pinning a man for the 1, 2, 3 or making him tap?
I'd say, I think I'd lean pin. And it's just because it's more like, because the question was about like, what's a better adrenaline rush?
Yeah.
With pin, you kind of like, you don't really know for sure. Even if you got him with like your best shot, there's always that little bit of doubt that they might like just barely be able to kick out or something like that. So there is that rush. And even if you don't hit your best move, sometimes on a pin, it's like, oh, maybe that just got me just enough. That knocked them out for 4 seconds. Well, I only needed 3. So there's the win. I feel like, now, I think some people will probably disagree with me on this. I can tell pretty much as soon as I get the submission locked in, whether or not there's even a chance it'll be a tap out. A lot of times, like if I get it in, I'll know in my head, like when I lock something up and it's like, this is going to do some damage and this is going to like help keep the match in my favor. But like their position just isn't there for it. They're going to be able to get out of this. Like they're going to be able to eventually get to the ropes or withstand it or something. I have won matches by submission, but it is like, once I get that hold locked in, I know that it's like, all right, this is as tight as it can be. I've got this on perfect. It's just like, count to 10. They're probably going to tap by 5. But yeah, for me, it's like that unknown rush of like, the pin, is it going to work? Is it not? Like that's where that kind of gets me that adrenaline going.
Nice. All right, Brad. Well, I end all of my interviews with 5 rapid fire questions, some with wrestling, some without. I've got your 5 queued up. You ready to roll?
Let's do it.
What is your favorite venue you've wrestled in so far?
Man, it's supposed to be rapid fire now. Now I'm hesitating. My favorite venue, I would say the Boston Marriott Burlington. That was Summer Chaos for Chaotic 2021.
What is your favorite city?
That I've wrestled in?
Just in general.
Just in general, Boston, yeah. Massachusetts, not close.
That's a good one. Mine's Nashville. I'm from Nashville. Are you originally from Boston?
I'm from right outside Boston. I grew up outside the city, went there for college, then lived there for about 10 years after.
Nice. So I'm assuming Red Sox, Bruins.
Always.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm a Red Sox fan. Nashville never got a baseball team, so I've always been a Red Sox fan.
Picked a good one.
What's your favorite food?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with Greek yogurt. Great protein and just and good for you.
That's a very athlete answer for that.
I had a nutritionist in college say that she considered Greek yogurt to be more in the meat category than the dairy just because of the macros.
That makes sense. What is your favorite music? Not a musical artist, but a genre of music.
Man, it depends on my mood. I'm gonna give a little bit of a unusual answer. I'll do classical piano sonatas.
Oh wow, that's big.
Focus, man. It's focus.
When I was in my undergrad, I studied music, and classical music is intense, man. No matter what, like it can move you to tears or make you mad as hell. Classical music has a lot of emotion in it.
Yeah, I can work out to it. It's kind of cool sometimes putting on like Beethoven and just
a little Chopin while you're lifting. Yeah. What is your favorite finisher that isn't yours?
The Stone Cold Stunner.
Always a solid pick.
All-time great. Hang on. I might Diamond Cutter. Diamond Cutter's like, they're so close to being like almost the same move. I think you still got to give the Stunner because Steve Austin's the man, but I'm going to put DDP in the Diamond Cutter. That's my number 2.
Well, if you're going to bring up the cutter, then I have to be the devil or the what would it be called? I'd give you the other side of it. If DDP did the Diamond Cutter, what do you think about the RKO then?
Oh, RKO is great. I love it. Like as a tribute, I love the whole like RKO out of nowhere thing that happened. Cause I mean, like I don't see that as like stealing from DDP. It's a continuation. It's just like the next generation being able to see it. Like I like loved it. They like the stuff like Orton's been able to do with that, been like so creative and just inventive how we can get to it from anywhere. So yeah, no, I love the Diamond Cutter. I loved all the different ways DDP could get to it. Love the way that Orton's been able to continue that on. And the way that like about 50% of the guys on the indies now, because everybody uses it, can also still continue that on. So cutters for everybody, baby.
It's kind of like a super kick now. It's one of those things that just kind of everybody has a version of it.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, this is my favorite part of every episode because I don't have to say anything. Just plug your stuff. Tell everybody what you have coming up and where you're going to be in the near future.
Word. Yeah. Catch me at Limitless. I'm going to be there Saturday, July 23rd, I do believe is the date. The show is Crunch Time. I'm going to qualify for the Vacation Land Cup, baby. Vacation Land Cup, VLC, taking it home. I've never had a shot at the Limitless Heavyweight Championship. I want that title. I want that shot. I've strung together some impressive wins, and now I'm going to make this a reality. I'm going to get that championship around my waist. So that's coming up Saturday, July 23rd, crunch time, Limitless Wrestling in Yarmouth, Maine. After that, Friday, July 29th, Chaotic Countdown. In that Chaotic Countdown match, 30 people enter at staggered intervals. We all know that match type. Winner gets a title shot at Summer Chaos. I talked about my match from Summer Chaos last year. I defended the New England Championship against Alec Price in the opener. Well, this year I want to be in the main event, and I want to be fighting for the heavyweight championship. So I want to win that Chaotic Countdown. I want to punch my ticket to Summer Chaos and be able to fight for the heavyweight title. So those are the next two shows coming up for me. That takes me to the end of July. So check out Limitless Wrestling. Check out Chaotic Wrestling. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram. I am at It's Cashew Time, all one word. And yeah, it's been cool talking with you, Will. Thanks for having me on this.
All right, Brad, I appreciate you stopping by. And now as we close another episode of Botched Spots and Share Shots, I want to take a minute and thank you for listening. Remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet. Like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. Leave a comment telling me how great I am or how terrible I sound. Either way, it helps the algorithm. For Brad Cashew, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.